Nearly every one of us does it. You cook a big batch, you save what's left, and a day or two later, you heat it back up, trusting that if it comes out hot enough, it must be safe. Most of the time, that trust is perfectly reasonable. But with a few specific foods, it is wrong, and not for the reason the scary headlines online will give you. You may have seen videos claiming that these foods give you cancer. I am not going to hand you that fear, because for most of them, the science simply does not support it. What the science does support is quieter, and honestly far more useful to you, because it can land you in real trouble a lot faster than any slow risk ever could. Two things: a germ that survives your microwave, and a change in the fat itself that is hard on your heart. Here is a number worth remembering. The CDC estimates that just one of the germs on this list, one you have probably never even heard of, causes close to 1 million cases of food poisoning in this country every single year. And after 60, your body handles that hit far worse than it did at 40. What used to be a rough day on the couch can become a trip to the emergency room because you get dehydrated faster and you bounce back slower. I have seen this catch people completely off guard. Healthy, capable people in their 60s and 70s who did everything right in the kitchen except one small step and paid for it with a week they will not soon forget. The good news is that every single one of these risks is easy to sidestep once you understand it. That is the whole promise of this video. Not to frighten you away from your own leftovers, but to hand you the small handful of habits that keep them safe. In this video, I am going to walk you through the 4 foods you are almost certainly reheating, from number 1 to number 4, and show you exactly what really happens to each one and the simple way to fix it. Stay with me to the end, because the 4th food is the one almost every health-conscious person believes is completely safe. And the reason it makes this list has nothing to do with germs at all. It has to do with your arteries. All I ask in return is that if you find this video useful, if you learn something from it today, then please help me out by subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like and a hype as well. You know, it helps these videos reach many more people, and it supports what I'm doing here. Now here is what almost no one takes the time to explain. When you reheat food the wrong way, one of 2 things tends to happen. Either you wake up a germ that quietly survived the first cooking, and no amount of reheating undoes the damage it already did. Or you take the fats and the cholesterol inside that food and you oxidize them. You turn them rancid at the molecular level into a form your arteries do not like, the germ or the grease. Hold those 2 ideas in your mind, because every single food on this list comes back to one or the other. And here is why reheating is so different from that first cooking, which is the part almost nobody explains. When food is cooked the first time, the changes are mostly clean and predictable. But once it has been cooked, then cooled, then stored for hours or days, 2 things have already happened quietly behind your back. The fats have been sitting exposed to oxygen, growing unstable. And any germ that survived has had long, undisturbed hours to multiply. So when you apply heat that second time, you are not starting fresh. You are reheating food that has already changed. That, right there, is the reason a small handful of foods behave so differently the second time around. Number 1. Cooked rice. Here is what most people get wrong. They believe that if leftover rice looks fine and you heat it until it is steaming, it has to be safe. With rice, that belief can fail you completely because the danger was never really the bacteria. It is what the bacteria leave behind. Rice naturally carries a bug called Bacillus cereus, and it forms spores, tiny armored seeds that survive the boiling water your rice was cooked in. Think of them as dormant, waiting. If that cooked rice then sits out on the counter, cooling slowly for a few hours, those spores wake up, multiply, and produce a toxin with a name worth knowing: cerulide. And here is the cruel part. Cereulide is heat stable. In the laboratory, it survives being heated far past boiling for over an hour. So when you microwave that rice the next day, you kill the living bacteria, yes, but the toxin sits there completely untouched. You killed the germ and kept the poison. It is a genuinely strange idea that heating something thoroughly could still leave a poison behind, and it is exactly why rice trips up so many careful people. Every instinct you have says hot equals safe. With most foods, that instinct is right. With cereulide, it simply is not. It is common enough that it has a nickname, fried rice syndrome, and it hits with nausea and vomiting within a few hours. For a healthy young person, a miserable evening. After 60, that kind of sudden fluid loss is exactly what puts people in the hospital on a drip. And this is not some rare, exotic event. It is common enough and quiet enough that most people who get it never even connect it to that innocent bowl of rice. They just think they caught a stomach bug. Rice is the most famous culprit, but the very same thing happens with cooked pasta and potatoes left to cool slowly, because those spores love any starchy food that sits warm. So here is the exact prescription. Do not leave cooked rice, and this goes for pasta and potatoes too, sitting out more than an hour or two. Cool it fast by spreading it thin on a shallow tray or plate. Get it into the fridge, eat it within a day, and reheat it only once until it is steaming. When in doubt, throw it out. The synergy tip: cook smaller portions or freeze the extra in single servings right away so your rice cools quickly and you are never reheating day-old rice that has been sitting warm. Number 2, cooked chicken. This is the food we all think of as the safe, sensible, healthy protein, and most of the time it is. Here is what most people get wrong. They think the danger is in the reheating. The real danger is in the cooling. Chicken, like all cooked meat, can carry a spore-forming germ called Clostridium perfringens, and the CDC estimates it causes nearly 1 million cases of food poisoning in this country every year, which makes it one of the most common there is. Here is how it works. Those spores survive cooking, and then, if your chicken cools down slowly and sits for hours in what food safety experts call the danger zone, roughly 40 to 140 degrees, the germ multiplies like mad. Picture that danger zone as a greenhouse. A big pot of chicken or a tray of meal prep left to cool slowly on the stovetop is like leaving the greenhouse door wide open on a warm day. The germ does not need much, just a few hours in that warm middle range, and a small, harmless number of spores becomes a large, troublesome one. This is why the classic culprit is almost never a single dinner plate. It is the big batch, the holiday roast, the party tray, the Sunday meal prep, food cooked in large amounts and left to cool slowly at its own pace in a deep pot. Once you eat it, the germ releases a toxin in your gut, and 6 to 24 hours later come the cramps and the diarrhea. And once again, it is older adults who are most likely to end up seriously ill because the dehydration hits harder. And there is a second, gentler reason to go easy on reheated chicken, and it is the grease side of our story. Each time you reheat cooked meat, the fats inside it oxidize a little further. Food scientists even have a homey name for the result: warmed-over flavor, that stale, cardboard taste reheated meat sometimes takes on. That flavor is quite literally the taste of oxidized fat, and while a bite of it will not hurt you, it is a plain reminder that reheating the same meat again and again is steadily degrading it. One cooking, one reheating, is the sweet spot. So here is the exact approach. Get cooked chicken into the refrigerator within 2 hours and within 1 hour on a hot day. Do not let a big batch cool slowly on the counter. When you do reheat it, take it all the way to steaming hot one time. And eating it cold, properly chilled, sliced into a salad or a wrap, is perfectly safe and a great option. The synergy tip: buy a simple food thermometer. They cost about $10, and divide big batches into shallow containers so the heat escapes fast instead of getting trapped warm in the middle. Number 3. Spinach and other leafy greens. Now here is the one where the internet has frightened you for no good reason, and I would rather tell you the truth than repeat a scary story. You have probably heard that reheating spinach is dangerous, even that it causes cancer. For a healthy adult, that fear is mostly a myth. Let me explain what is really going on, because the truth is actually reassuring. Spinach, along with beets, celery, and other leafy greens, is rich in natural nitrate. And nitrate is not your enemy. Inside your body, it gets turned into a molecule called nitric oxide, which relaxes and widens your blood vessels and helps keep your blood pressure down. That is one of the very reasons leafy greens are so good for your heart. So where did the scare come from? When cooked greens sit warm for a long time, bacteria can convert a little of that nitrate into nitrite. And the one group where that genuinely matters is infants, whose small bodies cannot handle nitrite well. That, right there, is the real origin of the old warning. It was about babies, not about you. And it is worth pausing on just how good these greens actually are for you, because the fear has it exactly backwards. That same nitrate the scare stories treat as a poison is one of the very reasons doctors urge you to eat more leafy greens. The nitric oxide your body makes from it is one of the most important signals for keeping your arteries relaxed and your blood pressure in a healthy range. Frightening people away from spinach to dodge a risk that barely applies to them, while ignoring the real benefit sitting right there, is exactly the kind of backwards advice I want to protect you from. For a healthy adult, this is simply not the danger the headlines make it out to be. So the honest advice is smaller and calmer than the fear. Eat your greens fresh when you can, or eat the leftovers cold within a day. Keep them cold and covered. Do not reheat them over and over into a sad gray mush, and never save reheated greens to feed a baby. That is genuinely the whole of it. No cancer, no hidden danger lurking in your refrigerator, just a sensible habit and one real exception for the very young. The synergy tip: leftover cooked greens are wonderful cold, tossed straight into a salad or a grain bowl. You keep every bit of that blood pressure benefit and skip the reheating altogether. And now, number 4. The one I promised you would be a surprise. Eggs. One of the most complete foods on Earth, packed with protein, with choline for your brain, with lutein and zeaxanthin for your eyes. So why on earth would eggs land on a never reheat list? Not for a germ. For what high heat does, the second time around, to the fat inside the yolk. Here is what most people never hear. The yolk is rich in cholesterol and fat. When you cook an egg once, that fat oxidizes just a little, which is normal and no cause for worry. But when you take an already cooked egg and blast it with high heat a second time, especially in a hot microwave, you speed up a process called cholesterol oxidation, and it produces compounds called oxysterols. Oxysterols are simply oxidized cholesterol. Think of fresh cholesterol like fresh oil in a pan. Reheat that oil hard, over and over, and it turns rancid. Oxidized cholesterol is the rancid form, and it is the form your arteries object to, the form that research links to inflammation in the vessel wall. And this is exactly why eggs, of all things, belong on this list for a heart-focused channel like this one. It was never about the egg being unhealthy. A fresh egg is a beautiful food. It is about not taking that cholesterol and needlessly oxidizing it with repeated high heat, turning a food that is genuinely good for you into one that carries a small, avoidable insult to your arteries. Over one breakfast, it is nothing. Over years of twice reheated scrambled eggs, the honest question is simply, why invite it at all? Now let me be honest with you. In the real world, the amount from your breakfast is modest, and this is about your heart, not about cancer. But here is my point. There is simply no reason to manufacture the rancid form when a gentler habit avoids it completely. So here is the exact approach. Eat eggs fresh when you can. If you cook them ahead, hard-boil them, leave them in the shell, and eat them cold. And if you truly must warm an egg dish, use gentle, low, indirect heat, a warm oven or a covered pan on low. Never a high microwave blast, and never reheat scrambled eggs 2 and 3 times over. The gentleness is the whole point. It is the high, fast, repeated heat that drives the oxidation, so low and slow, just enough to warm it through, is what keeps that fresh egg fresh. The synergy tip, a bowl of hard-boiled eggs kept in the shell in your fridge, is the perfect grab-and-go protein. Cold, ready, and never reheated, so those fats never get the chance to turn. Let me make this real for a moment. Frank, 72, lived alone and did what a lot of us do. Every Sunday, he cooked a big pot of rice and chicken to carry him through the week. One evening, he heated up a bowl that had been sitting out on the counter most of a warm afternoon, figuring the microwave would handle anything that needed handling. A few hours later, he was violently ill. And because he was 72 and got dehydrated fast, what would have been a rough night for a younger man landed him in the emergency room on a fluid drip. Nothing was wrong with that food when he first cooked it, and Frank was not careless. He was doing exactly what millions of sensible people do. The problem was the hours it spent sitting warm and the belief that reheating fixes everything. It does not. One small change, cooling and storing his batches properly, and it simply never happened again. Frank did not need to give up his Sunday cooking, and neither do you. He just needed to respect those first couple of hours after the food came off the stove. That was the entire fix. So let us bring it all together, because underneath 4 foods there are really just 2 ideas: the germ and the grease. Rice and chicken are about the germ, a survivor that reheating cannot undo. And the honest truth is that after 60, ordinary food poisoning is not a minor thing. It can knock you flat and dehydrate you fast. Spinach is the myth, a food that is genuinely good for your heart, so do not let a scare story rob you of it. And eggs are about the grease, the oxidized cholesterol you simply never needed to create in the first place. And notice what I did not do. I did not tell you these foods give you cancer, because the honest science does not say that. What it says is quieter and far more useful. It is not the food that is the enemy. It is how it is stored and how many times it gets blasted with heat. And I want to say one honest word about age here, because it matters. None of this is about treating you as delicate. It is simply that the immune defenses that used to shrug off a little bad rice at 40 are not quite as quick at 70, and the body loses water faster and replaces it more slowly. So the very same leftover that would have cost a younger person one unpleasant night can genuinely lay you low. That is not a reason for fear. It is a reason for a few small, smart habits. If someone you love lives alone and cooks in big batches, a parent, a neighbor, an old friend, this is worth sharing with them because it is exactly the kind of thing nobody ever sits you down and explains. So here is what to do. Starting tonight, 5 simple habits. 1. The 2-hour rule. Do not let cooked rice, chicken, pasta, or potatoes sit out longer than 2 hours, or 1 hour on a hot day. 2. Cool it fast. Spread leftovers in a shallow container so they chill quickly instead of staying warm in the middle. 3. Reheat once, and only once, all the way to steaming hot, then finish it or let it go. 4. Eat your leftover greens cold rather than reheated. 5. Keep eggs gentle, cold from the shell, or warmed low and slow, never blasted a second and third time. Let me leave you with this. Your leftovers are not out to get you, and you do not need to be afraid of your own kitchen. Nearly all of this comes down to a few small, calm habits. Cool it fast. Store it cold. heat it once. That is the whole thing. And those habits matter a little more after 60 than they used to. Not because you are fragile, but because your body has earned the right to have you stack the odds in its favor. You have spent a lifetime feeding yourself and the people you love. A few small habits in how you cool, store, and reheat are simply one more quiet way of taking good care of the body that has carried you this far. So tell me down in the comments, which of these four surprised you the most? Was it the rice, the chicken, the spinach myth, or the eggs? And if there is a food you reheat all the time and want me to look into, leave that down there too because I read them. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.